Yeah, well, actually, the property is right on the edge, so it's technically accessible.
Okay.
But it's in Forest City proper.
Right.
Because Forest City has three
Check.
counties right there.
Yeah, it all kind of comes together right there.
So I'll figure that out a little bit. She's my inheritance tenant.
Okay.
I bought the property 2 years ago, and she's the one that came up. Single mom, 3 kids.
She paid her that money, or she 2 years ago?
I think she's paid on time, maybe 3.
Single mom, 3 kids.
3 months. She pays the late fees.
No, hey, that's okay. Yeah, I got one. They're always a little late, but don't pay the fee.
If you have them, keep them. That's an extra $600. If you charge them $50 late fee, it's an extra $600 a year. That just raise the value of your building.
I charge them per day too.
Yeah. Well,
After that,
Yeah.
But when you what's your fee per day?
it's 50. After 5 o'clock on the 5th, it's $50 and then 25 a day.
Yeah, that was my lease, and it worked out great. Because on the 5th day, I'm getting 50. Sometimes I get 75, but I was always getting, and I'm like, I'll take the extra rent money. I don't care. If they always came through, but they were like,
Now, a lot of times judges will kick that. The judge will disallow the daily. All depends on the judge, you know. But you know what? I've never had a judge disallow the 50. I'm like, you know what? 50. If I get the $10 a day, $25 a day, I get it. If I don't, I don't.
I'm amazed at the bills that they will pay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just their credit card bill. They have to pay their credit card bill. You know, they have to.
They got it in their mind that credit card bill is going to affect my credit.
They don't realize you can also affect their credit.
Right.
And also, we remind them when they move in that we can positively affect their credit.
Sure.
You can do what?
You can report on-time payments to the credit agency. So it's for that. Now, Joe O'Connor, and I did not know this from him directly, the broker down in Luzerne County, I heard his strategy was the reverse. If he wanted $900 for the apartment, he'd write the rent at $1050 with $150 deduction or paid on time. So he never went into court and fought on a late fee because he simply, $150 was his late fee. And the story I heard, second or third hand, was 11:59 on the 31st, his mailbox outside his house would go ding, 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 ding. Everyone making sure their rent was in on time because he didn't give a 5-day grace. He's like, it needs to be on or before the 1st. That's it. Otherwise, ding, you're there. I don't know if it's true or not, but that would work too. You know, whatever
motivates them.
Yeah.
Sure. Cherry.
And coconut cream, please.
Coconut cream.
Thank you.
Cherry.
Oh, thank you. I want a coffee, please. All right, so I mean, we don't have to spend too much time on this since it's a small group, but I'm not sure who's out in webland. So let me kind of cover what this was supposed to be about. Well, do you guys have any other questions about, you know, or ideas? Because you guys have both been renting for a while. The other thing is waiver of notice to quit. That avoids you having to post the door with any kind of 10-day or whatever notice to quit.
What is it?
Waiver of notice to quit. If you Google it, there's words. And basically what that means is if they break a lease violation of any kind, non-payment or anything, I technically don't have to wait because my lease calls for a 5-day grace period. I have to give them that. But if my lease doesn't require a grace period, then I can go to court. You know, if you don't pay me on the midnight on the 1st, I can go to court on the 2nd. So I can go right, you know, I can go right to court. Without that, you got to post the door. Da, da, da. I had something in my leases when I was running it. My wife took it out. I'm not sure why. I called it the appearance of illegal activity clause because when it was one of our first buildings. We just bought it, and she went to collect rent downstairs. The downstairs tenant said, "I think the federal marshals are here to arrest the guy upstairs." And sure enough, they were there to arrest the guy upstairs for the stabbing at the glass bar in 2008 or whatever down in Edwardsville. Well, Kelly discovered that was, he went over talking to the marshals, that's what it was, ran to the judge's office, filed, got before the judge, and he's like, Kelly, I feel for you, but you don't have anything in your lease. He's like, isn't it just assumed that you can't be a criminal? He's like, no, it's not. So if he took out a picture of dog poop in the yard and said, well, Your Honor, on page 3, oh, I can evict for dog poop. So we got him out for dog poop. But, and I wrote this thing, it was before ChatGPT, so I just wrote this thing, and I knew where the judge went drinking after work. So as a judge, I said, I know ex parte, I know I can't, but what do you think? He's like, it sucks, but it'll work. Like, so you can evict. He's like, I can't evict on it. It'll work to get you in my chambers. You get in my chambers and let me decide if it's a dog. So, and, oh, what was the name? Larry Karras was no, it wasn't Karras. Anyway, I can't think of the other judge's name. But he said, because he came to a different meetup I used to go to, and he said, I want you to discriminate as landlords. He's like, no, I don't mean discriminate, big D. He's like, but if they smell bad, if they, meaning you got a sixth sense something's wrong, keep digging. He's like, because the better you dig, the fewer times you see me. And then I remember my mom, she was a landlord back in Massachusetts in the 70s. And even back then, it took her 2 years to get out of the one bad tenant that I remember. I was a young kid. And it was, I mean, Massachusetts was always a very tenant-centric state. It would take 2 years, bonded movers, a whole bunch of crap. And I remember her telling me from the time I could, knew this happened. She's like, if you don't think they're right, keep digging. She's like, it doesn't matter, whatever. Now on the flip side of it, can't think of the name. Another landlord locally here who has a lot of units for a lot of years, like over 100 units since 1981. He got burned recently, like 2006, 2008, 2009, on a steering violation. He had some prospective tenants come to the apartment, and I will get to the wholesale thing in a second, guys. And the kids were going nuts, and they were like banging on the walls and just being the kind of tenant you don't really want. And Jim Straub, he said, well, I think to the parents, I think you might be happier. This is an older building. It's not a 55 plus, not a legally older building, but you might be happier in my other building, which has more kids in the neighborhood. Before Jim got from that house to his home, his lawyer said, come by the office with a $10,000 check. And Jim's like, what? And his lawyer's like, did you say this? And Jim's like, yeah, I thought that they were a better fit for that building. Jim's like, that's a federal fair housing violation called steering. Bring me a check or they're going to bring their lawyer. He's like, and then Jim's like, well, we'll fight it. The lawyer's like, you can't fight it. You said it. You tried to guide them. You can't do that. You can, not a lawyer, but I think you can say, I also have. But you would fit better in. Don't do that. And remember, last thing is remember in Pennsylvania, everything's a protected class. I actually went to Pittston City and said, because they have a law, no more than 4 unmarried adults in any apartment. And I said, you realize that's a federal fair housing violation. I can't ask if they're sleeping with ducks or people. I can't ask any of them. So just don't ask, don't care, doesn't matter. Just don't. All right, so the law has recently changed. So I've got to cover this. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a broker. I've been wholesaling since 2009-ish or 10. And recently the law has changed it's called SB 1173, Senate Bill 1173. Also Act 52, but SB 1173 is easier to search. Act 52 is the entire real estate licensing act. And this is a new little piece of it that says that if you're wholesaling under 5 units and under, there's a little debate as to whether they included 5 units or not, but whatever, that you must be a licensed agent working under a broker. I'm just checking and making sure the audio is carrying through. Yeah, okay, good. And so previous to that, there were no rules on wholesaling.
Some crazy knuckle some of them.
That's really weird.
It's like, wow,
For
like a hollow wall or something. Like, I'm not even moving.
those of you out there, Ryan's gonna be attacked by some giant mice coming through the wall. Thank you. And you probably also know the light bulb over his head like keeps blinking and doing silly stuff. Thanks. So what this means now is as of Saturday, January 4th, if you're wholesaling property, you have to be a licensed agent working under a broker. So what wholesaling is defined as in the state is if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck. The technical definition is if you are selling equity for money, if you are making a profit off of equity that you on a property you don't hold title to, you're wholesaling. I don't care if you're doing, according to the state PAR legal hotline, they don't care if you're doing novations, powers of attorney, assignments, anything. They don't discriminate. And this is, this was a prediction they made a few months ago when the law first passed. And let's face it, this was Pennsylvania Association of Realtors calls this their 2024 legislative priority. Their desire was to screw the wholesale. So basically, they got their desire. It's a horrible law. It does not do the one thing it's supposed to do, which is protect the consumer. What it does do is it says if you sign a wholesale agreement with a client, it has to be in the agreement telling them they have a 30-day right to change their mind. From the day they sign with you to the day of closing or 30 days, they can simply wake up and say, I don't like your face. I'm not doing this deal. They also have the right to get an appraisal. This is after signing. And they can change their mind based on that. Now, what it doesn't say is it doesn't say that we have to tell them, which is the one thing we should have to tell them, we're paying you less than your house is worth. That's the one thing the law should have said. It doesn't. Now, and these things have to be, the law specifies what has to be in your contract. These things have to be in your contract and so on and so forth. So basically, you have to give them the tools to know that they can burn you. That's just black letter law. You have to give them the tools to let them know that they can burn you. And I don't think most wholesale sellers will want to, because they're in a bad way. That's why they're selling for below market. But what it also means is when they sign with you, let's say for $40,000, you advertise their house for $50,000. Then I see their house advertised for $50,000. I know you're a wholesaler. I know you have it under contract for less than $50,000. So I can run over and know that I can probably pick a number that beats your contract. Sit down with the seller, 41. So 41, you'll cancel with him and go with me. 42, you start playing that game. And where I think that hurts is it hurts our business, is competitive, whatever, but it hurts the seller. Because you're going to sign with me for 30 days, for the contract. Then Ryan's going to call you up and he's going to outbid me. You're going to sign with Ryan. The 30-day clock starts again. And then you're going to sign with him. And you're never going to actually sell this house that for whatever reason is you're desperate to sell. So it's never going to get done because you're going to keep changing horses. And Ryan and I have been through this a couple of times, that when a property has been through several wholesalers, no buyer wants to touch it. Because, we picked up a couple of deals we didn't know other wholesalers had it. And people are like, oh, well, I've seen that with several other people. Either I've seen the deal and don't want it, or why has it gone through several people? I just saw the property now, but I see that 4 other people had it. What I don't want it because nobody else did either.
And it could be a great deal, but just dampens it.
So basically, the law requires that you be a licensed agent. Now, a licensed agent is not hard. You do not have to be a realtor. You just have to take a state licensing exam, pass the course, pass the test, pass the state licensing test, pay the state some money, and hang your license with a broker. Contact a broker like me and say, hey, I want to be. Now, most brokers, bigger brokers, aren't going to touch wholesale. EXP, hell no. Century 21, hell no. If you're a bigger broker, why would you? If you're doing well as a bigger broker, why would you mess with it? The only reason I mess with it is because I'm already wholesaling anyway. We're already doing deals. 80% of our money is coming from wholesale. So it doesn't scare me to do it. I'm already doing it. And also I'm a smaller broker and I can work with people that way. So what it comes down to is when you Now, if you don't want to get your license, and we have a couple out of area wholesalers that don't want to get licensed, and a couple guys who are thinking about getting licensed, but they want to send us deals. Yeah, we can possibly get you a small finder's fee, 10, 15%, something like that, because that's our marketing budget. We have a marketing company we give our marketing money to, and da, da, da. So we can give you that small amount, but if you get your license and sign on with us, we start you at 75%. Well, 75 for listed property, 70 for wholesale, up to 90%, 85 for wholesale. And then after you paid the company a certain amount of money, you get 100% of every deal. So like, you want to make 15%, or you want to make basically all the money. And the real difference is, according to Pennsylvania Real Estate Licensing and Recovery Act, if you're not a licensee for licensed things that require a license, the things that require a license, if you're not a licensee, you can't do much. You can't negotiate with the seller. You can't negotiate with the buyer. You can't advertise the property. You can't answer questions about the property. You can't, the examples that I like to give are, if you're the secretary, the unlicensed secretary in a real estate office, someone calls up or walks in and says, how much is that house? Here's the flyer on the house. How many bedrooms does it have? Here's the website. How many bathrooms? Here's the website. You're not licensed. You can't answer any of these questions. That's why usually secretaries and receptionists at real estate offices are licensed. You can be in an open house. It is legal for a non-licensed person to do an open house, but you can't say anything. You can be standing there in the house in front of the two bathrooms and the 2 bedrooms. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? You can't answer. You're violating state law if you answer. And whoever the broker is that's up the chain is screwed if you answer. So that's why if you're not a licensed agent doing wholesale for units 1 through 5, you can't really do much. That's why you only get, I can only give you a tiny finder's fee. Now, I look at people, and I told one guy, the guy from Connecticut, he's like, I don't really want to get licensed. I'm like, okay. I wasn't mean to him, but I'm like, for $500, what are you, crazy? Take the test and whatever. Now, you won't be a realtor. Realtor is a club. After you're licensed, you can join the club, and you'll join a board, and you can list on the MLS, whatever. But if you're licensed, you can still take a listing agreement. If you're not a realtor, you can't put it on the MLS. You could take it and advertise it otherwise. You could take it and refer it to a licensee or to a realtor member. Like if you come on my firm and you're licensed, but you're not a PAR member, Ryan can list it for you. You can put it on the MLS. I can put it on the MLS. So you have one more tool in your box. Now, if you're a realtor, you get access to the MLS. And we're members of an MLS that goes all the way down the East Coast, down to Northern Virginia. So we can research some stuff that's pretty cool. And we give you access to all of our tools. We're trying to make it easy. At the end of the day, when I created the firm, I built it based on a 10% take. The firm lives up and I live off 10%. I don't want to be I am right now. I write my own deals now. But very, very soon, I don't want to be. I want agents out there doing it all. And me and the brokerage firm live off 10%. 90% goes to the agents. That way the agent can decide what to do with the money. It's not, now, when you're wholesaling, for those of you who are investors, you understand that when you're looking at a flip, if that flip is going to sell for $100,000, you can't, as a flipper, spend any more than $70,000, 65 to 70%, minus all your repair costs and your holding costs and whatever. So let's say it's 100, 70%, so you're at 70. You have $50,000 in stuff, so you're at 20. Now, if you're going to wholesale it, you got to be below 20. Because the guy you want to sell that deal to needs to be at 20. So you got to get it that extra level lower. Rentals have their own math, whatever. The point is, that's the difference between wholesaling and listing. Wholesaling and being a regular agent. regular agent, I'm going to take a certain percentage from the sale of your property. So if you want, I just met with a lady today. She's got 10 units in Scranton, very nice units, she spent a lot of time in blood, sweat, and tears on them. She's wanting close to $1 million for them. And I think we might actually get there. Well, I don't care if she gets $1 million or she gets 200,000. I mean, I care. But my commission rides the roller coaster with her. The difference is, as a wholesaler, I'm making a purchase promise to the seller that I will buy your property. It's not a listing agreement, it's a purchase contract. And I had a conversation with the PAR legal hotline when this thing first came out. Because before, when it was still under, it was going to become law, but I hadn't paid for it yet. And I said, well, so I can't do a net listing in other states. You can tell me I want 100,000 for the property, and I'll list it for 100. I'll list it for more than 100. Whatever I get over 100, I get to keep as the broker. Pennsylvania doesn't have that. And I said to the woman at PAR, I said, so I can't net listing as a broker, but as a broker, I can put it under a wholesale contract, which is effectively the same thing, but I can't put it on the MLS. And she said, yes, it's two different pieces of paper. I said, do you really think grandma understands that it's two different pieces of paper? You really think grandma cares about that distinction? But that's the world. If you're going to do a wholesale agreement, it's a purchase and sale agreement. In that purchase and sale agreement, you have to include the 30-day right of rescission, the right to change their mind, the thing about the right to get the appraisal and change their mind, and a couple of other things. And you have to declare that you're making profit, and there's a couple other things that we It's vague what the penalties are, but one penalty, if you're not licensed, will be, they have a really fancy term for it, impersonating an officer of the Commonwealth. Apparently I'm an officer of the Commonwealth. Didn't know that. And you might be in line for fraud and some other charges. The guy years ago got nailed here in Scranton, Lackawanna County, for some really dirty wholesaling deals. He was a guest of the state for 7 years. And impersonating an officer of the Commonwealth was the smallest charge. That was like a 30-day benchmark. Of the fraud and other things that he did were other parts. And the other thing that happens when you're wholesaling through a brokerage firm is an escrow account. And there's an admissions policy. They're getting security of a brokerage firm. That's what the state really wants. So does anybody have questions, or do you think I missed anything? Or
No, that's pretty good.
so so for those of you out there, like, call me 570-798-7051. I actually did set up a hotline. I forgot what it is. I'll have to put that on this later. But if you want to come to our meetup tomorrow night, King's Pizza, 7:30 p.m. tomorrow. I'll be there by about 6:30. And we can talk about that. And if you have other real estate questions, please come to our meetups. If you have things you want to know more about, please come. Looks like there are about 15 people out there. Not bad. And already 10 people have messaged me saying they want to actually watch the video. That's cool. So, I mean, since obviously, it's kind of a short thing, you guys don't really wholesale, so I don't want to drag it out too long. Does anybody have any questions?
Did you get clarification on if the deal's already signed, like right now, or is that?
Yeah. So basically, so the question could come up, and actually Ryan and I were debating this yesterday. What about a deal you already have signed? The law went into effect. We have two things that the sellers have signed, but we don't have buyers for, or a couple things. I don't know how many. And we have half a dozen or so things in closing, sitting in title, waiting for, everyone's already signed. And two different attorneys and one very large commercial broker have all agreed that if it's already signed, it's done. The law doesn't say it goes retroactive. Now, Ryan and I had two we were signing on Friday, and the law went into effect Saturday. We decided to throw the extra verbiage on those contracts just because we're not going to have a peeing match over, what day it was. But it seems pretty clear that, if it's already inked and it's already done, especially if it's already entitled, we've heard from attorneys, we're not attorneys, that you're okay. What's interesting is, as of December 15th, I think Tom was in our office, something like that.
Something like that.
there was a state inspector came in to visit with us and do our annual reviews and stuff. As of December 15th, he didn't even know this law existed. So the state inspectors, I hope, are being trained on this. And it's got to be a horrible job for them right now because these guys are not just real estate inspectors. They inspect real estates, mortuaries, beauty shops, and something else. So they're not real estate experts, and they're not decision makers. They're information collectors. So if they haven't been trained on this, they're going to be sent out on investigative and have no clue. And there's a large former wholesaling pair that is no longer a wholesaling pair in this market who took different directions, partially because of this law. Because there are many people who say, I can double close my way around it. Many people who say, double close, by the way, is on closing day, Ryan and I will buy it at 10 a.m. and we'll sell it to the buyer at 11 a.m. So it's 2 closings on 1 property. There are people that say, oh, I'm going to put under a regular purchase contract, put it out to my private buyers list and sell it that way. And that's not a wholesale. Well, according to the state law, the way it writes is any sale of equity on a property you don't own right now for money. So a double close means in order to get that buyer for that double close, you advertise that property before you own it. Because double close happens the same day as the second close. You don't close on it, then if you close on it, then advertise it, you're an owner. You're not anything else. But if you advertise it, then double close it, I would say if they catch you, you're wholesale. I would say if you put it under contract, send it out to your buyers list, you're running pretty close, in my opinion, to the line. And my personal opinion is, why do you want to run that risk? And I had somebody yesterday say to me, well, I do power of attorney, so effectively I'm the same person as the seller. And I say, yeah, except the law says you must inform the seller of these things. Yeah, but I'm the power of attorney, so I'm not really wholesaling you. Okay, if you want to face Harrisburg on that one, you go right ahead. I ain't facing Harrisburg on that one.
How difficult is it to get licensed?
It's easy. It's a 75-hour course, a live course. My friend Dave Whiteshock and my friend Larry Delgado are very good live course teachers in Luzerne County. They're actually, I think Dave runs the course up here. It's like Dave and Larry both charge around $500, something like that. And they are, you're in and out of there in a lot less than 75 hours, or at least it feels a lot less. They're really entertaining. The CE Shop and other online services also offer the licensing course. You want to make sure you're taking the PA licensing course, not just some guru program. It's got to be a certified, state. Like the ceshop.com is a good source. And then you take your course. You take, I recommend you, and you pass their little internal test that says you're good. You get their transcript. You file with the state to prepare to take your exam. I recommend you stick a step, and then you take your exam, and then you pass your exam, you're licensed. And then you go to a broker, and you say, hi, I want to be your person, and you sign on and do their paperwork. I recommend you stick something in the middle there. There's 2 things. There's a book called The Standards and Practice in Pennsylvania. I'll pull it up. It's Real Estate Standards and Practice in PA. It's a big yellow book, but yay thick. It literally, and you'll know it because it has at the bottom, one of the authors is always attorney Goldblum, Gold something down the bottom. He is literally PAR's attorney, Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. He is the guy and literally has written the book. Larry Delgado has also over the years written several chapters. And you also want to go to, after you take your class and you finish their little exams, you go to the ceshop.com, and I looked around at all the other ones. I would not recommend anybody else's practice tests. You take the CE Shop practice test. You spend about $100 on their practice exams. You beat the crap out of them. When you're getting mid-90s on the practice exams, then you're ready for the real exam. And you got to make an 80, not a high bar. And you can take them. You can break them up, meaning you can take them both, fail one of them. If you do, go back and take it again. You can fail them many times. I don't think there's a limit, actually. I don't think if it is, it's like take it 10 times or some big limit. And just remember, I mean, yes, we all want you to be an excellent agent and whatever, but no one ever asks. I mean, I've known Ryan since before he took his exam. I never asked him what he got on his test. Nobody cares. You passed. And if you've met most
Even after
agents,
your doctor made on his test.
Get an 80.
get an 80, move on.
But so my test, that's what it was. Doesn't matter. Standard's an 80. Get an 80, pass.
And if you're licensed in other states, you may or may not, depending on the state, have to take the Pennsylvania course again, or not again, but as a Pennsylvania course. But most states, if not all, your national test still stands. You're only taking the state test. Because I didn't actually, wasn't that what you did when you went to New York? You only took the state?
Yeah, when I went to New York, I only took the state. In fact, they took my Pennsylvania transcripts and everything. They took the 75-hour course, applied it to New York, and then I just basically was on the fast track. All I had to do was study for the exam, take the exam, and it was relatively easy. And you're not even supposed to be able to do that nowadays because they lost their reciprocity, but yet they still honor it. They're like, "This is Pennsylvania, sure, go ahead." I was shocked at how easy it was to actually do it.
Yeah, and basically, and that's the thing. So reciprocity is also important because certain states you can do that, in certain states you're starting over, but the national will probably still carry because it's the national exam. And then pretty much you're done. You know, once you sign on with a brokerage, you have to keep your license in good standing. You have to keep up with the annual continuing education requirements. And it's so sad, those of you with felonies and certain other criminal situations, you're not getting licensed. And, you know, basically, your broker's job is kind of like any other industry. You know, when I got my degree in television, technically I knew how to produce TV shows. In actuality, I didn't learn that. I learned it by doing. I was in the TV field for a decade, and I remember so really you learn in the course what's required to follow the law and the papers and the process and the ethics. It's when you get with a broker, that's the broker's job. The broker's job is actually put you on the road, and that's why you start off at a lower number, 50% some firms, 75 for me, and we work you up until you're ready to sort of fly on your own. My job at this point is, with somebody who's my experience, keep him out of jail, keep us not going to Harrisburg. He knows how to fill out the forms. He knows how to be the agent. Oh, did you do that listing meeting?
Oh, I didn't put that. Wait, which one?
No, the one you were going to list.
That was today. I think it was even today.
Okay.
I'm waiting for them to actually call me. He's got to talk to the wife.
Okay. All right. Okay. I just popped my head. But basically, the job is to kind of keep it on the road. Any other questions?
What's the name of your brokerage?
Gorilla Real Estate, like the animal gorilla. And we're down in Kingston. We have an office right there on Pierce Street in Kingston. When you join our firm, we give you access to all of our tools. Not just our prop stream. You have access to the MLS, or you do or you don't. Prop stream. Oh yeah, thanks, man. Prop stream, all the other technologies.
How do you say your last name, Ray?
It's actually pronounced Sezapolsky. K is totally silent. That throws everybody off.
Makes it easier without the K.
Yeah.
I just put down Ryan K.
That's everybody knows we get Ryan.
Yeah.
Of course, we have a Ryan who's coming on board, so now it's going to be related.
Yeah, difficult.
Ryan 1, Ryan 2.
Now, how many deals do you usually have open at one time? I mean, I know it probably varies.
It varies, and truthfully, we've been sort of in a development mode this year. So like we're probably doing
Right now, there's
like eight in the pipeline now.
like
That's
that's right in the pipeline, something like that.
I mean, I think we're probably closing about that a month, something like that, and a few more on the on market.
So when you're getting your pricing,
Yeah.
you're doing the 70 minus an estimated rate. So you've got the investor in mind. How much can you actually sell this for, and still take a chunk out of it?
Well, no, see the way I like to do it. We like to do it. We say, okay, when we dip this house in, if it's a flip, when we dip this house in gold, what's it going to sell to the end buyer at the end of the rainbow? if it's going to sell to, if the flipper is going to be done for $100,000, then that flipper can't spend more than $70,000 on it. Then minus 50,000 in repairs, 10,000 in holding, da 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 da. That's the most the flipper can offer. I'm down at 20. If I want to make a wholesale, I got to drop down another chunk to get my wholesale fee off that. So now I'm hitting the person at like 10. And then I'm playing the game. And that's where being a licensed agent's always been the win, because if they don't want to take 15 for their house or 10 for their house, I say, well, great, I can't buy you with that. But I can, you want 30. All right, well, I can't buy you 30 because I have no room. My numbers don't work. But I can list you. So I can flip it over to a listing contract and advertise it that way. So I mean, do I sometimes have the end investor in mind who I think will like it? Yeah. Have we gone to deals where we knew the end investor? Yeah. I mean, there was one that we went to that I went to that I was the end investor, that I bought it from our company. I walked in, I walked through, I'm like, okay, if they'll take this and Honey for Home is okay with that, I'm buying it myself. But usually I do the numbers based on what your average flipper will be okay with. And have there been deals that we've played thinner with? There was a deal last year, Judy's deal, that, we couldn't get her below 65. I think anybody would have been crazy to buy the house at 50. But, let's just throw a lark at it. Let's lock it up, be straight with her. I don't think I'm going to sell you, but give me a month. Let me see what happens. And we had somebody pay like 78 for the house. I fell off my chair because I'm like, I wouldn't pay more than 45 for this house.
This from a house that has a rippling foundation. We couldn't figure out what was going on. And the guy's like, yeah, I'll take it, no problem.
Yeah. Rippling foundation. The vinyl siding was no longer touching itself at the corner. So it's indicating something is not what it was when the siding was put
Do you know
on.
how that ended up?
They flipped it and they like it.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it since then, but I did talk to the person. They were quite happy. They didn't come, And that's the other thing, is you always have to remember disclosure law in Pennsylvania. And I've had this debate with attorneys who said, okay, the EPA-led disclosure laws, every residential property built before 1978 must have an EPA-led disclosure form. And I've had attorneys, one of whom on Bernie Ave and Music, say to me, nope, that's only for realtors. I said, well, let's take out the lead disclosure form, sir. Every residential property built before 1978 must. He's like, yeah, but nobody really does that. I said, okay, a lawyer can make that call. I read words. Pennsylvania, every residential real estate transaction in Pennsylvania must have a seller's disclosure. Doesn't say every realtor transaction, doesn't say every wholesaler transaction. You sell your house to him with nobody else involved, you sell it to your son, you need, even if it's an estate has an exemption. You can sign that you're an estate and exempt, but you sign the form exempting the estate on behalf of the estate. So those things, and if you sell, we try to be very clear, but we gotta make sure we got no open holes on that. But we always try to make sure of that, because the reality is the lawsuits don't come with a disclosure that might be a little inaccurate, because it's only the owner's expertise, and usually the owner's not an expert. So if you don't know that there's water in the basement, or one question is, has the sump pump ever run? Well, unless you're down there when the sump pump goes on, you don't know. You're not going to get sued for not knowing. But if you don't fill out the disclosure and then come to find out there is settling in the basement or there is water in the basement, the owner comes back and says, wait a second, you didn't tell me. I didn't think I had to. Well, according to Pennsylvania law, you were supposed to disclose all known facts. Now, if you didn't know a fact, then they have to, because I had somebody call me up, well, I think they knew the fact and I want to sue them. I said, well, good luck with your attorney. Good luck proving they knew something they claimed they didn't know. Good luck. But they did a disclosure. And it was actually one of my, I was double agent on it. I was on both sides. I said, does Rangesh or did this client know? It wasn't him, but I don't know what he knows. I don't even know if he knows what a sump pump is. He said he didn't know there was one. Now you have to prove he knew there was. Most grandmas, most normal people don't know. So I tell everyone, listen, here's the seller's disclosure. Take it with a grain of salt. Probably doesn't mean squat. You bring your contractor in, you bring your inspector in, your whoever you do, I've got a client right now buying in Altoona. The current owner gave an inspection report, and he took his contractor through. And I said, listen, the owner's going to do a disclosure for you, but you know more than he does right now. But legally, I'm having him do one because it's just covering tails. So yeah, so basically, I forget how I kind of got on that, but basically, as long as we're doing all the process right, that's what matters. And it's the responsibility of any licensee to make sure those steps happen, to make sure to put an escrow. That's what sent this guy up for 7 years, is he put deposits in this escrow account. And when the deal fell apart, he didn't want to take them out of this escrow account. And that's not good. You get bracelets for that.
Now, do you have a buyer's list, or do you have a list of properties you have available?
We do. Okay. So we always have a list of properties available. We also have a buyer's list. So you can join our buyer's list. Easiest way for that is just text us, because we're right now moving our websites over. And we do have a list of properties available. A lot of times we'll also stick almost everything on Facebook Marketplace. Not because we are drumming up, but because we're drumming up more buyers. We may even have a buyer online for this property, but we put a property out there and all of a sudden 14 people message us, and then Ryan gets to add to our buyers list.
It's just ever growing larger, but yeah, we could probably just market exclusively the buyers list at this point, and not even need to market it anymore. But I mean, if you want to get on that, absolutely, we can do that.
Our new website will have a buy box. You'll describe exactly what's in you want, because the new version of our listing site will have an automatic buy box matchup. Because what we're doing is we're angling to create, and we're not going to fight the big ones. We're not going to replace homes.com or whatever. I'm talking on a regional level. Everyone can put their listings on our site. If you're a legitimate wholesaler, you're a licensed wholesaler, you're an agent, put your listings on our site. You're going to fill out complete information. There will be no, I have a 3-2 and a Voca, who wants it? No. You're going to give us pictures and numbers and then your site will go live. But when that site launches, probably June, you will, as a buyer, you put in your buy box. As soon as something comes in as a listing that matches your buy box, it goes to you. So it's sort of auto searching for you. And so that's probably going to be coming out, because that software is a little bit of an AI trick we're working on that. So that'll probably be coming out probably August, I think. But yeah, basically, definitely sign up for the buyer's list, and you can also reach out to us through the wholesale broker or Hunting for Homes and give us your buyer's list there. WholesaleBroker.com or huntingforhomes.com. But the easiest way is just to text Ryan there, or text me at 570-798-7051.
Yeah, because my goal is I'd like to be able to replace the account, and for my wife's sake, I'd like to be able to pay off a couple of the properties. She just doesn't like the debt at all. So that's kind of if I could flip a couple houses to get the extra cash, that would go, that would free up stuff, and kind of just take the burden off the personal a little bit.
Well, and a couple of things that is, first of all, I always recommend on the rentals, you take your rent, take out your hard costs, I take out a third maintenance, vacancy management cap. And then it's got to be a 10 cap or better. It's got to be a 10% return or better. Or like, Joe Scarice's DSCR sheet, you do 1.25. Then you're going to be able to easily get funding on the deal. And you're almost never going to be underwater. Like, I just bought a double and had the week after I bought it, I had $15,000 in unexpected expenses. It still kicks ass in numbers. Yeah. Because I beat it up so bad going in. The other thing is, it sounds like you're saying you want to get rid of the debt.
On some of the properties, yeah.
My recommendation is never eliminate the debt.
Yeah.
So, because of liability. So I don't care if you go to a bank like First Keystone or where's Taylor at? It used to be called something Columbia, but whatever. It's renamed. I don't care if you go there and you get a line of credit and you leave it empty. the line of credit is a lien against your property. So if you have that slip and fall event, you have that whatever, and it blows past your insurance, the lawyer looks at, oh, well, I can get $1 million in insurance, or, oh, look, this property has no debt. I can also take the property. I can get $1 million insurance, and, oh, he has too much debt, I'm not gonna bother. That's where, and I even have it, so a couple of our properties, I've even done personal loans on top of my mortgage. So but also, the reason I like the lines of credit is because, or the DSCR loans. I do DSCR with Joe Scarice, 30-year, which are regular loans. There's a mortgage payment every month. But with the lines of credit, I have 5 or 6 properties that are free and clear. I have lines of credit against them. Well, I saw 2 deals. I saw Blackman and I saw Gaylord. So I could just write a check, done, no money out of my pocket. But for me, the biggest thing is if you're owning rentals, don't own them in your own name. Own them in an LLC. Never let your tenants know that you're the owner. And always have leverage against it. And I fought this one with my brother. We had a warehouse in Boston. And my theory was pay down the warehouse and cash free. Debt free, we're fine. For a lot of reasons. Depreciation reasons, tax reasons, liability reasons. Keeping the leverage there is very helpful. I mean, I'm not telling you how to run your life. Even if you have a line of credit and you don't use it, then you at least have taken out the liability from it. Also, if you have kids heading into time for college loans, my brother was a fanatic about, I will not help my kids in college. Basically, no. But he owned 2 or 3 houses, free and clear, out in Boston, a couple $1 million in real estate. Even though his kids were whatever legally that is that you're not paying for your kids' college loans, his equity counted against their ability to get loans. So if you've got kids heading into that part of the cycle, if you've got those kinds of situations, debt up, borrow up, borrow up. And also the last thing is if you've got a job change situation, remember that borrowed funds are not taxable. So if like when we refinanced the building, that's how I started buying out here. We refinanced the Boston warehouse, and I got whatever I got, 150,000 or something. That's how I started buying. So like, I have a guy I met with today. He's just retired from his job, and he's going to eat up all the credit, all the equity on his properties. So if he needs to, he can live off that equity. That's tax-free money. Sorry, it's just a couple things I want to throw out there.
Does Joseph do home equity?
Joe is pretty much
investment properties.
Yeah,
I have spoken with him about the DSCR.
Yeah, Joe is all non-owner occupied LLC ownership. DSCR. I think he might do other things besides DSCR. So Joe is a direct lender. I'm actually taking his training course on Saturday for Lenmark to be a correspondent or whatever he calls that. That's down in Philly. He's internal with Lenmark, which is like I think it is a hedge fund. Then there's Lou Rose, who's a local guy who's a DSCR and an everything lender. Lou does FHA. He does the whole thing. There's a bunch of other good lenders, and your smaller banks for a market like this, your smaller banks, your local banks, your Bank of Americas, even PNC, any of your national banks aren't going to understand this market. We are way too screwed up, and the numbers are too small. I mean, okay, we're bigger numbers now, but a lot of those bigger banks have $100,000 minimums. Even Fidelity, which is they make their decisions locally, but they're rubber stamped in Rhode Island. They pulled a last minute trick on me one time, and maybe it wasn't a trick, maybe I misunderstood it. But I won't even go to Fidelity. I'm like, Honesdale, First Keystone, Luzerne, FNCB, something like that. Yeah.
They have one that will do 10% on non-owner, 40% down. That's the goals.
Okay, yeah, something up with that.
Oh, where'd you say that place?
Community bank, go right down the road here.
Really?
Down on Kaiser Avenue.
Yeah.
That's where he sits. But they'll come to whatever branch you're at. It's 10% down, or at least it was.
Who knows what changes?
Some changes, but it's last time I talked to him 2 months ago, it was 10% down. Wow. Now he said our rates are still in the high 7s.
Yeah.
But 10% down, non-owner, 1 to 4 units.
Wow.
If you can find something that numbers work higher.
Right. And that's that, like Mike Rubingham, who I had lunch with today, he's a local investor that I've known for over a decade. He's a fiend about looking at every single lending option and squeezing the last nickel out of every version. And Joe is 75% LTV, 30-year locked in rate and term. And there are other DSCR lenders that are 40-year and 80, 85. And Mike and I we both borrowed from Joe, and I'm like, well, Mike, why didn't you go over here? He's like, they're higher LTV and they're longer years, and the first 10 years are interest only. So you're like, ding, 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 love all this. Then you see what they charge you for their loans. And he's like, you're actually behind. He's like, I went with Joe. I looked at them both. I went with Joe. Now, I'm not saying Joe's the only player in the game, but part of the reason so Joe, besides it, I'm on his podcast that he does on Sunday mornings on Clubhouse. It's Creative VRR Strategies. But his grandfather started his real estate investing company. And Joe is an internal senior VP, not a broker. He's part of Landmark, whether he's a part owner, he's an officer or whatever. But like when Joe, he's the director of something over there, and he does national events and he travels and he teaches and stuff. So like you're not dealing with the guy that says, I'm going to collect the information and pass it over to the guy that makes the decision. I'm sure it's happened, but pretty much if Joe says it's happening, it's done at that point. If he talks about it, he's like, it's my money. Now, is it actually money? I don't know. But like he talks about it, like it's done. There is no other layer. And the two loans I did with him, there was no, underwriting is considering. There was some hurdles and stuff and whatever, but there wasn't any darkness of, what's going to underwriting? No. Mm-hmm. And also with Joe, his loans, like a community bank, they're going to want your blood sample. They're going to want your tax returns.
Yeah,
Joe,
They want everything.
They do.
It's not zero, Doc. He pulls a credit on you. Got to be mid-sixes or above. He does appraise the property, which actually First Keystone doesn't in some cases. I don't think there were any tax returns. There were ownerships. What do you own and what's your
Rent roll.
your rent rolls and whatever. And the other one that kind of threw me was, and this does not, as he says, none of these answers are wrong. He rattled off these questions here. How many buy flips and sell in the last 4 years? How many the last 4 years before that? How many buy flips to rent? How many flips to rent for other people? How many flips to sell? And I had basically no buy flips and sells in the last 8 years. And he's like, Steve, it's okay. He's like, 0 is not a bad number. He's like, it just changes where you're at in the chart. And he's like, you might get an extra, 500 basis points, on the loan. He's like, but you save extra 500 basis points because you do so many, fixed rents for other people. He's like, it's just the questions. And he's a very military, I don't think he is military, but he's a very straight shooter. Like, there is no story. Don't tell him why, just give me the answer.
Yeah, I spoke with him late at night one time. So he was that way.
Yeah. Oh, it's weird.
But that was the difficult thing too, because I was trying to really help my wife think through all of that process and to max out leverage, 3 of our buildings.
Yeah.
She was just like, I don't want to sign off on that. That's just more debt.
Well,
And that's what hurt. Because with the DSCR, it's not a line of credit.
it's money. Yeah.
They actually give you the cash.
Right.
Right. So then she's saying, well, now we've got this chunk of cash, and if we're short cash, my answer is let's go buy cash flowing property. And then she's thinking, oh, that's whole lot more debt. But in all fairness to my wife, we have 3 buildings and then our personal residence. So she's come a long way.
Well, and you always have to weigh that. Like, heading into COVID, we did the First Keystone, and we do have to wrap up here because I know you guys are closing soon. But heading we did the First Keystone line of credit specifically because, Brian, you know I'm doing a meeting. Specifically because we didn't want the pilot because I didn't know what was going to be coming up during COVID to buy. So we locked up the line of credit, so it just sat.
So did you go through a regular bank for
I
that?
went through First Keystone. Yeah.
And they asked for your
Oh, it was the it's blood
Yeah.
samples and colonoscopies and everything else. Yeah.
Their low minimum, they only need, at least at the time, a few years ago, it was only a 50,000 minimum.
Yeah, the very low minimum.
100,000 minimum, well, which is huge, you know, you need quick cash, you need smaller loan, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, and it was great to have that line of credit, you know, running through. But also, like, if you know, keep in mind, I can help you with if you did get a chunk of money out of a Joe Scurry's loan that you didn't need. You can do private lending. You can loan it out at 12%. You're paying Joe 6.5. You loan it out at 12.
I'm doing that with my IRA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm part of Pace Mortgage Group.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I met Stephen Herring. And that's how I met Joe, because I was at a meetup in Stroudsburg, and Joe was there.
Yeah. Like I'm toying with joining Pace Group. I haven't decided yet, but
I'll send you a link.
Okay. I'll use your link. Sure, that's fine.
And that was really good. And so I've been trying to just connect people to deals. There's a group that's offering 20% in 6 months on second deed trust mortgages, promissory notes, personal guarantees.
I'll take 20% in 6 months.
Yeah, the one that I connected my mom to is actually $55,000 investment for 4 months, 20% return. And they do the returns 72 hours after closing.
Nice. Yeah,
So, and I asked them why, and they said because a lot of our lenders lend out of their home equity lines of credit. So giving them the interest up front after closing allows them to pay the monthly fees for borrowing the money.
Yeah.
Which is genius. So that's again, I'm just trying to find ways to get more cash coming into the pocket while I'm, paying for my son to go through engineering school.
And yeah, well,
you need a lot of money for that.
Yeah, my daughter just changed. I mean, she's only 14, so who knows? But she just changed her site. She's, it was all Penn State. Now it's Yale. I'm like,
oh,
that's a much more expensive word. It's
Yeah.
smaller, but much more expensive. Well, and actually, I've got some leverage right now, which I'm not going to need for a while, and I'll take 20% in 6 months, no problem. I mean, that's great. And private lending is a great way to generate, great way to generate return, as long as, I mean, obviously it's an all or nothing thing. If the deal goes wrong, you can personal guarantee, but if there's nothing there to guarantee,
right,
you go down with it. But it's
We've only got 5 minutes.
yeah, we should probably wrap up. Any other last minute questions or anything? All right, guys. So for those of you who want to, tomorrow night, King's Pizza Mountaintop. The first Tuesday and second Wednesday are back to back this month. Otherwise, reach out to us 570-798-7051. Thanks.
Thank you for doing this.